Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comet Class. And in today's lesson, guys, we're going to be looking at Rick Remender and Wes Craig's Deadly Class Volume 9 Bone Machine. And yeah, this is going to be the final episode in the Deadly Class retrospective. After this, I'll be covering the newest Deadly Class issue that came out, I think, about a week or two ago. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into today's story. Let's go. So the story starts off where the last volume left off, with Saya and Maria basically meeting each other again. And it's a really, heartfelt reunion, but it's short-lived whenever Kenji's bodyguards, or, his people, basically show up at this church and try to kill Maria and Saya. And Maria, Saya, and Zazeli basically get in a fight with these two people, and they managed to take them out and kill them. And the fight scene itself was really well done. I really enjoyed it, and we get to see Maria and Saya use their weapons, the katana and the fan, and it was pretty interesting. Now, after this, we get to see that Master Lin has actually came with two people with him, basically saying that they have to kill Saya. And whenever Master Lin basically says this, Maria basically comes up with an idea saying that if she made Saya her pledge, she'll be part of the school again, and therefore saving her from Master Lin and the school's rules, and that you can't kill a fellow classmate, which was really smart thinking from Maria, very fast thinking, and it saved Saya's life, so I think that's pretty cool. Now, after that, we get to see that Helmet basically is sneaking out of King's Dominion, and he's basically heading out with his roommate to basically go and search for Saya's father's cult that we had learned about all those volumes back. And yeah, basically he's going there to try to get revenge for Saya, and I believe the roommate's name is Tosawi or something. He basically is, wondering if Helmet's doing the right decision, but they head off and eventually do arrive at, I think it's Sacramento, and they arrive at this church, and right off the bat you feel that something's completely off because it seems completely normal, but by what we had heard from Petra's story about her father and mother, we know they're anything but normal. So they're basically invited inside, and once they get inside, the person that invited them in basically locks the door and says, "Let's begin." And we get to see that these people are truly into a satanic cult, basically. They basically, strip off all their clothes, they basically perform all these different acts, and they basically welcome death from these people called the Senders, who basically send people to the afterlife. And yeah, it's pretty brutal and pretty sick, and this scares Tosawi, and basically tells Helmet that they need to get out of here. And a battle basically ensues between Helmet, Tosawi, and these people, these Senders, and it's amazing. Now, they basically hold their own and take out a ton of the Senders, and eventually one of the Senders basically starts praising Helmet and saying that they need to take their place because they're actually sending people now to the afterlife, and it just shows how sick and tormented these people are. Their grasp on reality is just, it's warped. So eventually, after seeing the lengths that these people will go, Helmet basically says, I'm out of here, and breaks the door down pretty much, or breaks the lock, and they get out of there. And he states that he cannot leave without making these people pay for what they did to Petra and making her even go to King's Dominion in the first place. And I really enjoy this because Helmet basically tells Tosawi that he needs to get out of here, and that he himself doesn't feel like Helmet is doing the right decision going so far for Petra, because maybe she never let Helmet know a lot about her and her past and that. And it's really cool because Helmet says that he doesn't need Tosawi to get his revenge on these people, and we never really get to see if he killed off the people that were in this type of cult. But we do know, because of later on, that her father was not part of the victims, and he'll be part of the story in a little bit. So Helmet basically tries to catch a ride with someone because Tosawi basically took, I think it was Helmet's car, to go back to King's Dominion because, Helmet said he wasn't going to go back. And the guy that pits, Helmet up, I believe is one of the cult members. So he's basically going to try to brainwash Helmet. Now, after this, we get to see that Marcus basically is talking with some of his friends whenever he sees that Maria and Saya have came with Master Lin to King's Dominion, basically showing that Saya is alive and that she came back to King's Dominion. This kind of like shocks Marcus. And Saya just basically, walks away, and she notices Marcus basically, stunned and angry, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, eventually, we get to see Saya basically show Marcus that she had gotten a rat in her locker, basically showing that the events that happened before in Volume 4 could indeed happen again. So that's pretty scary, but we'll see how that plays out. So Marcus and Maria's relationship is going kind of good, kind of bad. It's very rocky at this point in time. And, it gets even more rocky with the introduction of a character called Stefano, which invites Maria to some party. Now, Marcus eventually does sit down with Saya and basically tells her that he doesn't want anything to do with her, that he feels like she's kind of like radioactive. She kills everyone that she's around. He just doesn't want any of that right now. And he basically walks off, basically dissing her, saying that she allowed Billy to die, which I don't really agree with. But I do understand that the point that they were at during, when that test had happened could have caused Billy's death, because maybe if Saya would have been there and Willie, maybe things would have been different, because Marcus would have had Willie and Saya's support instead of having to run away from Victor. And there's just so many variables of what could have happened. But we jump into where Stefano and Maria basically seeing that a type of relationship could be brewing between the two whenever they have this really funny interaction with this dude. And at the same time, Marcus is hanging out with Jayla, and Jayla and him are at a carnival, and eventually some dude talks to Jayla to, on the side, and Marcus goes and gets his fortune told, basically. And it's implied that Jayla basically killed this dude that had taken her to the side and put him in the Tunnel of Love. And Marcus basically says, after she asks what did the fortune had told him, and he says something that I already knew. After showing what happened to this dude, makes me think that Marcus already knows that Jayla is plotting to kill Marcus and did not indeed forgive him for getting her brother killed, basically. Which I think is really dumb, and Jayla does something in this volume that really makes me hate her character, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. So after this, we get to see that Marcus and Maria basically go to a party at Stefano's house that she was invited to. And it's pretty cool to see all the characters that we know just hanging out and, just chilling. And eventually, Saya and Marcus basically have a talk with each other, and they start playing a game of spin the bottle or something. And this is where it's revealed that Saya basically had her first time with Marcus, and I believe it was the same way with Marcus as well. I'm not sure if it was with Saya or if it was with Maria first. I can't remember. But I think that's really cute. And it shows that there could be something more between these two characters in the future. And Saya basically just walks off, and Marcus being kind of stunned that he was the first person she was ever with. Now, we get to see that Shabnam and Grodda basically have this angry conversation where she's just calling him all sorts of names, basically just demeaning him and making him look like a fool in front of everybody. And while that's going on, Marcus and Maria are having a fight, and Stefano's basically just fueling the flames, basically. And Maria basically tells Marcus that she doesn't agree with everything that he's doing at this point, his mindset, that she feels like he's blaming her for not being exactly like him. And Stefano basically shows up, and Marcus, says, that the only things they're having now are bad times, just showing that they're having problems. And Stefano had went and got Marcus a drink, and it turned out that he spiked the drink with some type of, I guess, laxative or something. And this made it to where, Marcus had gotten sick. So he got pissed off and basically headed off to find where Stefano and Maria were at. And before he does that, we get to see that Marcus basically is planning on getting with Jayla to kind of get, Maria mad. which again shows that Marcus isn't the best dude. And I really enjoy little moments like this, showing that Victor was right that, Marcus is not some hero. He's not, like, period. And he basically walks in on Saya and Jayla basically in the process of sleeping together, which raises the point if they're both, bisexual or not. I don't think so. I think this is more so just like experimenting, at least for Saya. I don't believe she's bisexual. I believe that she's into dudes, she's straight. But I don't know. So he basically walks out, gives them their privacy, and he tries opening another door, and it turns out that Victor is, having fun with that dude. I never remember his name, but the dude with the glasses. And it turns out that I guess Victor is gay, which is kind of awkward because he was always making fun of gay people. So it's a pretty big plot twist. I remember reading this, I think it was last year when this came out, this issue. It kind of like blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's a weird way to go for Victor's character, but that's how it is. So Marcus basically heads out of there, kind of surprised at what he just saw, and he basically just starts wrecking the stereo player basically, and everyone goes into applause, and Marcus just makes his way out of there. And while he's going to look for Maria and Stefano, they basically get attacked by somebody, and Stefano basically takes out this dude that was trying to attack Maria, and Brandy is watching them. And while that's going on, Grada basically is attacking Shabnam, and she basically physically assaults him as well. And eventually, Shabnam just snaps, and for the first time ever, we get to see him do something truly dark, where he takes an axe and basically, smashes it in between her skull, basically killing her instantly. And he basically puts his snacks, whatever he was cooking, on top of her dead body. Which was crazy, and it's so dark. And Brandy eventually comes and, asks him what exactly happened to Grada, and he basically said, I guess we broke up, showing how dark Shabnam basically became in this moment. And, with the stuff he's doing later on, it looks like that's not going to be a one-time thing. Now, Marcus eventually makes it to where Maria and Stefano are, and it turns out that they're actually, sleeping together, basically. And Maria basically is shocked to see that Marcus saw her doing this act, which if I was Marcus, I would definitely break up with Maria. That's just ridiculous. You're still in a relationship, number one, and number two, you had one fight and you're gonna, sleep around on him. That's messed up. But yeah, so Marcus basically runs away and he falls over, and it's revealed that, Helmet basically arrives and he's wearing the white makeup and that. And it looks like the cult got to him. And he basically decided to join the cult that Petra's father was a part of. And it said that he actually gave in to what he saw. Even though he saw how evil these people were, he decided to do that in order to get his revenge, rather than, actually taking her father out and everyone in that cult. So it's really sad to see that this happened to Helmet, but he becomes an antagonist. And yeah. So Helmet's people, basically, or the cult that Helmet became a part of, basically attack Maria and Stefano. And Stefano basically runs away like a coward. So Maria has to fight her way through these people. And, they basically make their way, more people. It's like a whole army of these people. Basically make their way to where Brandy and Shabnam are. And they basically paralyze Brandy. They knock her out. Some type of tranquilizer. And yeah, it's crazy. Basically, Petra's father arrives and he basically reveals himself, and Toshali basically sees that something's wrong inside. He sees Helmet basically in all this makeup, chasing Marcus with an axe or something. So he knows that this is it. That Helmet basically has snapped, and he knew he was getting close to this point. And after what he saw, at the cult thing in the beginning of the volume, it makes complete sense that he knows that this is it. So they're basically heading out to try to save Marcus. And yeah, Saya basically hears the commotion with this whole army of cult people coming into, Stefano's place. And this is where Saya basically shows up and, gets out of that room, I guess. And Jayla, I'm guessing. And they basically start attacking these people. So a battle's going on between Marcus and Helmet. And all Helmet wants really is to, kill Marcus, of course. But also hear Marcus admit that he did indeed pretty much kill Petra by not doing anything to try to save her. And I don't blame him. because, Marcus, as he said when Petra was dying, he didn't care one bit that she was getting killed. So I really did enjoy that, Marcus, is in the situation where he's finally going to admit his mistake. So, Shabnam basically is talking to Petra's father. I don't think he's even a name, so I'm just have to refer to him as that. And he's basically showing a sadistic side to Shabnam and basically telling him to accept this way of life. And Shabnam is not against it, as he lets one of his fellow classmates just get killed right in front of him and doesn't care one bit, even smiles about it. It's just crazy. And eventually, they basically set fire to Stefano's house and is planning on killing everyone, burning everyone alive that's inside that house. And Shabnam's, smiling, basically, seeing how evil someone can get and actually enjoying it. So Marcus, in this basically life and death situation, is basically dreaming about his father, or daydreaming about his father, because he knows that this could be it. Because Helmut is stronger than him. He has a weapon, that he's bloodlusted, basically. And Marcus doesn't want to fight him because he feels like he can get through to him like he did to Victor. So, Petra's dad basically tells Shabnam that he'll marry Shabnam to Brandy and they'll become his daughter and son, which is pretty sick. But considering, Petra's dad and the cult that we saw in this volume, doesn't surprise me one bit. So we'll see how that plays out in the next few issues, I'm guessing. But yeah, so Victor basically is the MVP for these people because he gets them all out of the burning building, basically, and smashes the door open, basically hurting himself, burning himself, I'm guessing. And the battle begins, and we get to see all the people that are alive at this point basically take up arms and fight against the cult members. And it's pretty cool. Now, while the battle's going on, we do get to see that Brandy is getting taken away by one of the cult members. I believe it's the father. And yeah, Shabnam basically says that he has something he needs to do to him and that he'll meet him soon. And we also get to see that Helmut and Marcus are at the end point of their fight, where Marcus is tied up to some type of stone, and Helmut is going to basically kill Marcus. So the fight's going on basically, and Victor sees that Brandy is being taken away by Petra's father. He basically runs after them, but while he's in mid-run, he basically is shot in the leg, and it's revealed that Jayla is basically shooting Victor. And basically Victor tells her that, killing him isn't going to do anything, and that Victor has done a lot for these people, and that he's making himself a better person. But before Jayla can kind of accept his apology and accept that things can be different, she actually murders Victor in cold blood. And I really hated this. It's already going to be a year, or it has been a year since this issue came out, and I'm still kind of pissed about this. Victor is the best written character in the whole story, and for him to go out like this before he could fully redeem himself, I mean, he pretty much did with everything he did, up to this point, because he saved the crew like at least 2 times, and that's fantastic. And yeah, it's just sad. And Jayla basically smiles, and it's very ironic because we get to hear Marcus say that you'll regret this, but he's talking to Helmut. But this Tet Spots happens with Jayla basically smiling, so I'm pretty sure Rick Remender did that as kind of like a symbolism that, Jayla's gonna pay for what she did because she killed someone that wasn't innocent, but was making the right decisions. Basically, he was redeeming himself, and she took that away from him. So yeah, I don't really like Jayla's character after doing that, because it just felt selfish, and I don't see where her character's gonna go now from this point, but we'll see. So anyway, so we go back to Marcus and Helmut, and Helmut basically gives us his backstory, finally letting us know about his father missing and his mother basically dying of a curable disease, but them being poor and not able to, do anything about it. And him going to some type of military experiment school to where they kind of try to brainwash him, and that it's pretty sad. And eventually he says that he's going to kill Marcus. So Maria basically jumps in and they ensue into a battle, and it's amazing. And basically Maria takes an opportunity to cut Marcus out of his binds, and Marcus jumps into the battle as well. And while their battle's going on, Saya's fighting, these cult members as well. And Shabnam grabs a blow, basically an opportunity to land a blow, the back of Saya's neck. to basically knock her out, and basically says Master Lin sends his regards and that he just locked in Valedictorian or something like that. And he basically ties her up, her hand. He chains her hand to some type of like wood stake, and basically says that, she might want to throw her katana at him, but she's going to need it to, escape. That even though he can't cut, the chains or the cuffs, that doesn't mean that he can't cut something else. So it's implied that Saya's going to have to cut off her arm or her hand in order to escape with her life. And that's pretty dark, and I wonder if it's actually going to happen, because I have not read the newest issue, so I'm not sure if it showed if Saya has both her hands or not, but we'll see when we get there. So yeah, so going into the final portion of the book, we get Marcus and Helmet's conclusion, and they're basically fighting, and when Marcus has the opportunity to end Helmet's life, basically kill him, he doesn't do it. He says he won't do it, and Helmet basically continues to fight. Eventually gains the upper hand and is about to kill Maria when he tells Marcus to basically say, what he wants to hear, that he let Petra die. And this time Marcus does admit that he probably could have done something, but he didn't, and that he's sorry that he didn't. And I really enjoy this because Marcus, I believe, does feel like what he's saying is true, that he does accept that he probably could have done something, and that he didn't feel even a little bit bad when he saw Petra dying. But he can understand that Helmet did love her, and that maybe she did deserve a chance to redeem herself. And we'll see, more of this play out in a little bit. But he's about to kill Maria whenever Stefano basically shoots Helmet dead, shoots him multiple times. And he basically shows up and tells Maria that, he was never going to leave her like a coward, but he was going to get, some ammo, some guns, which I think is a lie. I think Stefano is playing both sides. I think he's part of something bigger, probably working for Master Lin to try to break up Marcus and Maria, to kind of like divide them and then conquer them, basically make Marcus weak in heart and mind and spirit, but we'll see. So Marcus basically sees that this is happening, that Stefano is comforting, Maria, his girlfriend, that he literally cheated with, in front of Marcus, basically in front of his eyes. So not only is he dealing with that, messed up situation, but his friend's dead. He was trying to get through to Helmet, and I believe he could have gotten through to him had things gone a little differently, but he wasn't given that opportunity. In that moment, he literally shot Helmet dead, and we get to see Helmet on the ground just dead, with Marcus just looking, contemplating what exactly just happened. And Marcus kind of like just goes into a rage. He sees the gun on the ground, grabs it, and the comic ends, the volume ends with the gunshots going off. And we know from the pictures that we saw for the cover of the next issue that takes place, for this time skip that's about to happen, that Marcus is alive, so he did not commit suicide. So that only gives a few more options. Either he did some blade shots, didn't kill anybody, or he killed Maria and Stefano, or he just killed Stefano, which is the theory that I have until I read the newest issue, if this stuff gets revealed. But that's going to be it, guys. That was Deadly Class Volume 9, Bone Machine by Rick Remender and Wes Craig. Overall, what a great issue. The only thing I have to say about this one is that it is very, I don't know if you would say graphic, or it has a lot of stuff like sexual themes in it, which I think don't need to be in there, but I understand that they're in there, so because Rick Remender wanted to show us how messed up, Petra's background was and what she had to deal with, and maybe making us feel bad for what she eventually became because of her parents and the stuff that she had witnessed messed her mind up so much. I mean, just stuff you saw is ridiculous, and Petra saw that like every day of her life. So I get it, but other than that, I thought the volume was great. I love the character development for all the characters. I did hate that Victor died. I think he's such a great character. He's probably the best written character in the series, but that's forever Rick Remender's choice, and I trust that he has a reason for doing this, and that something big will happen with Jayla's character, and and how Marcus deals with the death of Victor and Helmet, which are two big characters. Helmet was introduced in Volume 5, so he's lasted for about 4 volumes, which is a lot of material, and Victor was there since the first volume, so we feel that one especially with what we got at the end of last volume, that little bad story with him. We feel for his character a lot more. But I think that's going to be it, guys. Until next video, I'm probably going to be talking about the newest issue. I'm not going to wait for the volume to come out because that will probably be a while. But I do want to get my thoughts on what this next issue has in store. And I can't wait to jump into other comics. I'm probably going to do a ton of like single videos before I go into a full-on retrospective for the next ones. So I might do at least 3 or 2, single videos before I jump into next retrospective. So I don't want to, do too many videos in a short session. So be on the lookout for that stuff. But until the next video, guys, God bless you, and until the next lesson, keep on reading those comments.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity, so I could see how you